Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Ultra Hardware number TA Ed-Lhl510-26D passage function exit device lever trim, satin chrome finish. Very versatile sort of line by Transatlantic. This comes out of the family of products that this comes out of. This is obviously a lever trim that is a passage function. Okay, very typical. You're going to see this installed in a situation by which there can be no key in this lever. Think of a stairwell in a building. Okay, there's been a phase from going from keyed locks to passage sets in these vertical columns of enclosure, stairwells. The logic is fire in the building, people trying to get down, can't get out on the floors, the way down to the ground level is blocked. So replacing those with passage sets is something that occurs and is happening. Satin chrome finish. The 510 specifically means that it is it's a passage function is what the 10 means, I should say. Okay. This is a very versatile unit in the sense that it will handle being applied to not only different holes that you've prepped in the door, but different panic devices as well. Transatlantic has really done a great job at giving you installation instructions. And even some of the, and there's a link below this video to this document, even some of the almost hardware humor that I find in here. So let's start at the beginning. Here's what I know. First of all, you can install this right to the door through a 2 1/8 inch diameter hole, a typical 161 if you will hole. You've got your 2 screws that are already threaded into the posts. You're going to get yourself the mounting plate that's going to come with it. So first of all, you start off with the attaching of the lever passage to the door. You're going to hold it out with the plate. These 2 screws you'll remove. They'll run through these 2 holes, and then your tail piece will come through the big hole in the center. Okay, that's number 1. You can upgrade that installation by adding the studs, they call them, these 2 items here. You would remove these screws and install those studs. That would give you the same installation, except that you'll drill a couple of holes per the template that's included as well with the device. Seen here, that 3/16 hole at 12 and 6 is what they're referring to. Now that, when you get those studs installed, makes the lever trim all but impossible to get any sort of unintentional rotational torque on the installation. Okay, that's number 2. You can then upgrade all of that, and you can install the trim down to the included deluxe mounting plate, they call it. How you do that is you get that lever placed right in there, and you can see those holes in the 4 outside corners, which are included, those little screws there. You're going to mount that right to that plate. Then those 2 sex bolts are going to come right through these holes, go through the door, and bolt to the inside chassis of the head case. And my reference to humor before meant, so you've got 3 ways to mount it, and the best way, of course, was that last way with the deluxe mounting plate. It's even called out in the instructions. This installation is excellent. The lever cannot rotate in the locked position. So, sure, it's a passage, but all the time doing this forces this to move in that direction. Okay? So when you've got it installed on something that's clearly going to go a long way to keeping it from rotating, you're in real good shape. One thing I hadn't pointed out in that installation is you got these 2 studs. And you're going to have those studs in a hollow metal door. You know how at 9 and 3 you've got those little semicircles cut out in a 2 1/8 hole? Well, that's for those studs. And they will, of course, lock into that plate right there. Okay. So I'm partial to Transatlantic, and I'm partial to them not only for this reason. A plate, about 3 5/8, about 5 inch. I'm partial because they've thought it through. They've really come up with the solutions for you to be able to get this installed properly and reliably, predictably. But I'm partial to them also because after having sold Transatlantic for a couple of decades and selling it to my client base, and then in essence selling to their client base, you become, after a while, reliant on the predictable, reliable, high quality level of the material, and it's still at a very reasonable cost. So if you have an application that is a standard duty commercial, Transatlantic is a great option. It's because the products perform well. If you've got something that you know is going to be abused and broken, well, this standard grade 2 imported material may not be what you want to go with. There's no option to be able to rebuild the material either, whereas you would if you were dealing with a device that was several factors more expensive. But dollar for dollar, it's pretty hard to snub the nose at anything Transatlantic. That's just the bottom line. Now, what else you're going to get in this installation is this little handing plate. You can see that it says LH there. On the other side, it says RH. Now, what that is for is part of what I had said earlier about Transatlantic making this to work on lots of different panic devices, even to the point where they will give you instructions on how to hack the hardware. Here's what I mean. You could have an exit device that is other than Transatlantic, and it is a handed exit device, meaning this lever will rotate in both directions, and it will unlock in both directions. That makes it non-handed. So you could, when you enter that stairwell door, rotate and get in. You could also lift up and get in, which is an unintentional way of it operating. But if it's Transatlantic, that's okay, because that Pullman latch on the exit device will retract either way that the pinion cam rotates on the inside of it. But there are devices that are not built that way. That's what that handing plate is for. You could remove this inner zinc plate and then install that handing to restrict or govern its direction of rotation. And that would be appropriate if you're using a device other than Transatlantic, or a handed device, I should say, by Transatlantic as well. So that's very interesting that they allow you, they encourage you to use their stuff with other people. And that's pretty unique. Now, to further that point even more, this table down here shows you a condition by which, if you install this 500 series with various brands of rim exit devices, and you find when rotating the lever or the knob that you do not have full latch bolt retraction, remove the lock from the door and bend the tailpiece enough to compensate for the amount of extra degrees needed to create full latch bolt retraction with the panic device you are using. That's pretty unique. What they're saying is, take this and put about a 20-degree bend in it so that you are preloading the exit device. Meaning that the amount of rotation that you get out of this, which let's say is about 45 degrees, may not be enough to fully retract the latch bolt. So they're saying, actually, bend that. I'd be quite careful if I was doing that. I'd be really careful. I would probably disassemble this, try to get the tailpiece out, put it in a vise, and then very gingerly fatigue that metal in the direction that I wanted to preload it. I like that. I mean, I've hijacked a lot of piece of hardware and bent it to my will to make it work the way that I wanted it to work. Here's a company that says, here's how you do it. It's another reason that I'm partial to Transatlantic. They're willing to work with an existing situation very well. So the rest of the installation instructions we've covered. We've talked about the deluxe plate, the 3 different ways to mount it, the handing plate, okay? The template you'll get, your hole may already be drilled, but you need a 2 1/8 hole, what's called the 161. That means it's 2 3/4 back set, 2 1/8 diameter hole drilled through the door, okay, at whatever height is appropriate. You'll have your through bolt holes at 12 and 6, but only on the exterior side. You don't drill those all the way through. If you're going to use that installation method, and you really should, absolutely. A notation regarding the handing plate, which will only be if you have a specific vertical rod device. Installation instructions that do not apply to this unit. How to remove the cylinder. This is a passage. Obviously, they package that with everything. Okay. There is a link below this video to those installation instructions, but they also show sister products from Transatlantic in this for this exit device as well. A lot of different options of trim, device types, and by all means familiarize yourself with it. It's not a very exciting catalog, but the truth of the matter is it shows everything important. So standard passage trim function for panic device, lever design handle, deluxe heavy construction, and what they're really meaning there is the return springs are fantastic. It really brings it right back to being horizontal. Okay. It's ADA compliant. It's a grade 2 lever. I'd like to see this even tested at grade 1, 1,000,000 cycles, rather than the 400,000 cycle of grade 2. Anyway, if you have any questions on the Transatlantic TA ED-LHL510 26D lever passage trim for their series of exit devices, or any other Transatlantic product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.